Good morning, and welcome to the meeting of the Intergroup for Animal Welfare. The theme of today is sitting right next to me. The Commissioner, Olivér Várhelyi, EU Commissioner for Health and Animal Welfare. We'll have a chance to discuss with him today on the many issues regarding animal welfare that we would like to improve and would like to discuss with the Commissioner. And Commissioner, we're very happy that you took the time to come here to discuss with us. It's a great opportunity for us, so we really appreciate it. I can tell you that also this group worked for the establishment of a Commissioner for Animal Welfare. So in that regard, it's also a success for us that you are here, and we think that your position has the opportunity to do so many great things for our common effort. And so we'd like to hear, of course, your perspectives on what your priorities are. We have, of course, I think you probably know that members here will be interested in hearing on upcoming initiatives, both when it comes to legislation and enforcement, and also your ideas on how to engage and how to make sure that we don't fight with each other, but that we find common solutions. I think we're all interested in hearing about that and working with you towards that. I can tell you, Commissioner, that this intergroup is one of the oldest. It might be actually the oldest in the European Parliament. We have existed for more than 40 years. And we were re-established here in the new mandate, and we have members from from almost all political parties, from the left to the Greens, to the Renew, to the S&D, to the EPP, to the ECR, to the Patriots for Europe. Sorry? Yeah, and non-inscrits also, of course. That's absolutely true. And so you'll have a broad you'll have a broad range of opinions and perspectives, but we of course share the ambition to improve the conditions for animals. And so, Commissioner, I will not take more time here to begin with, because it's really you that we would like to hear from. And then I would propose that you get the floor to present your ideas, your perspectives. And then we basically spend the time. We have an hour until 11 o'clock, and we have to stop at time within the time that we have. But we have the time until 11 o'clock, and we will start with the words from the Commissioner, and then we'll have chance for questions and answers from the Commissioner. I just have to say that for practicalities, this meeting is live streamed on Interactio. And will be uploaded on the Intergroup's website. Interpretation is available in English, French, German, Italian, Polish, and Romanian. However, interpretation will only be available until 10:45 due to resource questions. So without further ado, Commissioner, we're happy to have you, and we look forward to hearing your words. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Dear Niels, thank you very much for the invitation. I also want to thank the members of this intergroup, which is, I think, one of the largest, or the largest, for having me today. We already had a chance to discuss at the plenary when we met end of December, and I took advantage of the invitation from your chair to come and see you and have maybe an even more direct exchange today. I think that it is very timely now to come to this group very early in the mandate to give you a flavor and outline what to expect from the new Commission when it comes to animal welfare. Currently, as you know, there are two ongoing legislative proposals that are now discussed in the European Parliament and the Council. The first is about the protection of animals during transport. The second one is the welfare and traceability of dogs and cats. Now, the animal transport proposal, as you know, incorporates many of the recommendations from this House, including very specific provisions for transport to slaughter and also on aquatic animals. I try to be confident that the ongoing interinstitutional processes can actually reach a balanced approach that improves the animal welfare, while we could maintain also the competitiveness of this sector. I know that discussions are ongoing, so I don't want to preempt the result, but I want to encourage you to come to solutions, and it is the same message also for the Council, where I also see that still considerable work is ahead of us. When it comes to the dogs and cats proposal, this is the first EU rule to be established for this field, so for household or pet animals. And I'm counting on this House to address the main aspects of this legislation so that we can ensure a feasible but also enforceable outcome that will align with the Commission proposal and should meet also the citizens' expectations. In addition to these proposals, we are also committed, of course, throughout this mandate to continue to improve animal welfare in the EU. You have seen that the Commission has just adopted on the 19th of February a new vision for agriculture and food, which also provides a very clear policy framework and the perspective for this mandate in this area. I understand that there's a plenary debate running in parallel to this meeting on the vision for agriculture and food, but I hope that members will, as they finish there, will come over here and we can also listen to them. Now, of course, it is also very clear from that vision that our farming system can only be competitive and sustainable if we also deliver in this area. But for this to happen, we need to remain competitive. We need to remain competitive so that the farming system can balance also the needs and expectations of citizens for affordable, healthy, and animal welfare friendly food with the economically and socially viable enforcement of rules by our farmers. We intend in the Commission to address also the successful European Citizens Initiative on end the cage age. This is what we have discussed, as you can recall, in December at the plenary debate already. And what I can tell you about this is that the work would be based on, of course, the latest scientific evidence and should also take into account the socio-economic impact on farmers and also on the agri-food chain. It should be also an opportunity to improve, of course, animal welfare and to respond the requests expressed in this successful European Citizens Initiative. On the other hand, we need to make sure that with what we are proposing, we are also improving the competitiveness of the EU's livestock sector. Our thinking is that this year, as I already explained to you, should be used to create a dialogue, but also to create potential solutions for a new proposal. The first one you could expect next year, sometime in next year. I believe that effective action requires dialogue with all the stakeholders. And that should include the farmers, that should include the food chain, and of course that should include also the civil society organizations. I intend to engage with all the relevant parts. We will go sector by sector in order to ensure a comprehensive approach and appropriately prioritize areas for intervention. One clear expression of citizens' concerns on animal welfare is, of course, this European Citizens' Initiative. And as you know, the Commission has responded positively to this. So we are now working on how to implement it. But while we are waiting for new proposals and then later on for new legislation, I think we should not lose time to improve animal welfare on the ground. And I think that here we have so much to do and so much to achieve. Because the enforcement of existing measures is as crucial to me as it is coming up with new legislative proposals. Legislative proposals will actually change realities on the ground only years from now, while enforcement can change things immediately, as of today. And I'm convinced that better compliance could change these realities on the ground. And as we have discussed also last time, I'm personally willing to engage with every single case that goes against our rules. Because we need much better enforcement and much more uniform enforcement of the current rules that we have. Many of the cases that you have seen and that shocked everybody in Europe couldn't have been happening if rules were properly enforced, current rules, not new ones. I think it is also important to talk a bit about innovation, because innovation is also essential for improving animal welfare, and we could use innovation for improving it. Animal welfare rules could incentivize investment in modern technologies, for example, like precision livestock farming and welfare monitoring system. And this could also help us to drive down the costs and improve the productivity and improve outcomes also when it comes to animal welfare. So focusing on outcomes, I think, would give us much more flexibility and better ways to adapt our industry and farmers as well. Because if we design this in a smart way, then we can ensure high animal welfare standards, standards that are not going to be seen or felt as additional costs or burden, but could bring also considerable benefits both for the farmers and for the animals. Because good animal welfare, to me, means healthier animals, high-quality food, and high-quality meat. It also helps to tackle the global threat of antimicrobial resistance. We need to take measures that are balanced, meet expectations, and maintain the competitiveness of our agri-food sector. In this regard, we must remain committed to ensuring reciprocity in animal welfare and health standards with third countries. We have to avoid situations where lower standards or practices banned in the European Union are used in third countries and their products are then imported into our member states. If this occurs, it undermines our efforts to improve animal welfare and results in a loss of competitiveness. So I firmly believe that dialogue and collaboration with all parts, public and private, will enable us to improve the current framework of the rules. I think, as we are running short on time, this would be the opening set of ideas I have, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And indeed, I think you touched upon many of the relevant issues that we are concerned with, both the existing ongoing legislation that we're negotiating. You mentioned cats and dogs, and you mentioned transports. And indeed, we have several of the lead negotiators on transport, for example, here in the room, the rapporteurs. You also mentioned the upcoming legislation, for example, the cages that we look very much forward to, and I'm sure there will be questions here. And then you mentioned the question of enforcement and the many scandals that we have seen and what we can do to prevent that this happens in the future. I think the question on imports that you finished off by referring to is a very important one for us as well, to make sure that not only the requirements, they should apply to EU farmers, but also the meat that we import, so we don't have unfair competition, and we can also influence other parts of the world by doing so. That would be my couple of reflections. Now I would like to open up the floor, and we have a lot of members here, so I will be a little bit strict on time. I think you can just raise your hands if you want to, and some of you have already done that, if you want to get on the speakers list. And I think no more than 2 minutes, because then we will try to make sure that as many will speak as possible. So I'll try to keep it at that. We will start with Manuela from the EPP, and we will take a handful of questions, and then the Commissioner will have the chance to respond, and then we will take some more questions until we are running out of time. Manuela, and maybe you can just introduce yourself and the political group that you come from, if you want.
Yes, Manuela Ripa, I'm in the group of the EPP, and Commissioner, I'm very, very happy that you're here today, because you are the first Commissioner ever having animal welfare in this title, and Niels mentioned it. This group fought very hard for it, and we are very happy now to have you here with us. And your mission letters has important tasks regarding animal welfare. Let us start with the One Health approach. This also goes hand in hand with you being Health Commissioner, and One Health approach aims optimizing the health of people, animals, and the ecosystem. You already mentioned the reducing antimicrobial resistance. That is a task of your mission letter, and the Federation of Veterinarians of Europe stated that animals which are well cared for and appropriate housed will be less prone to infection and will need less antibiotics. And in order to have a health-oriented approach, what is needed, it is needed to reduce the density of farm animal population, reduce the stress level of animals, enable animals to perform positive natural behaviors. My first question here would be, do your plans to tackle antimicrobial resistance also include a health-orientated system for the rearing of animals? And you said we need to stay competitive, that is clear, but of course we also need to stay healthy. And that is why I would like to hear a little bit more concrete about how, in your view, improving competitiveness in the livestock sector can go hand in hand with animal welfare. And the second question, very briefly, you mentioned it, I'm rapporteur for the opinion in the ENVI on the welfare of cats and dogs, and in your mission letter it is stated that you also have to look at the imports of exotic animals. In the Agri and in the ENVI, there are many amendments calling for a positive list of exotic animals. It means that to allow species that are only suitable for private care, because this would reduce zoonotic risks to public health and reduce the economic, social, environmental impacts of invasive alien species. I come to my question. Do you intend also to hear the calls of the Parliament regarding the positive list? And if yes, when? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manuela. Anja, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Niels. My name is Anja Hazekamp. I'm a member of the Dutch Party for the Animals. Welcome to this Animal Welfare Intergroup. As you know, animal welfare is not only important or crucial to animals, but it's also a topic that is very important for European citizens. And two of the most successful citizens' initiatives are about animals, the Citizens' Initiative and the Cage Age. And initiative for a fur-free Europe. Therefore, I'm very curious what you are going to propose regarding these ECIs specifically, and more in general about the revision of the animal welfare legislation. Will you follow the scope and timeline? Well, timeline might already be a little bit difficult, but as demanded by the European Parliament and promised by Commissioner Kyriakides. Will you follow her line as well? And will the proposed regulation on kept animals extend legal protection to all farmed animals? And let me be more specific. We heard some rumors about the end of cage age proposal that it will only focus on laying hens. And of course, many laying hens are already freed from cages and live in barns. But will this also focus on rabbits, quails, geese, ducks, pigs, sows, and calves? And you spoke about imports. Just one more question. I have a more specific question regarding imports of horse meat. We have received many reports, detailed reports over the last years about neglect and poor holding conditions in Uruguay and Argentina. Horses are chased with fire, electric shocks, injured animals are not treated. It's not only an animal welfare issue, but also food safety issue, because they are slaughtered in European Union approved slaughterhouses. Well, you know that we asked many questions about this already, together with politicians from all political groups in this House. Last year we had a dedicated debate on this topic. I'm sure you will remember. Commissioner, when will you finally help these horses and ban the imports from Uruguay and Argentina?
Thank you, Anja. And we have Thomas Weitz.
Thank you, Chair, and Jona Potkivano, Commissioner, thanks for joining us here. In this meeting, I have several questions. One of them, the big majority of my colleagues, farmers, do not want to see their animals transported long distance, especially not under conditions that compromise their well-being. But even more unity in the farming sector, I find, when it comes to live exports via ships to third countries, mainly via ships, but also via trucks. And this is something where I see big majorities actually building up to actually finally end live exports for slaughter. Maybe you could give us an indication where you stand on this. When it comes to ending the cage age, I'm an Austrian citizen, and Austria has banned cages many, many years ago in laying hens and the chicken production, with the result that we lost 2/3 of the production in Austria. Well, the remaining 1/3 at least is profitable, because Austrian citizens like to eat homegrown eggs. Lucky us, but the reality is already in the past and today that these cages were going well across the European Union border, and we're re-importing the products like liquid egg and so on that have been produced under these production standards. And this is an unfair competition for the farming sector within the European Union. So can you indicate how you will manage this within the Commission, that we ensure that for additional production quality standards and animal welfare standards, we can also make sure that our farmers are not put out of business by re-imported products that do not comply with all of these standards? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Then we have Tilly Metz, please.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor, dear Chair, and thank you, dear Commissioner, for being with us here in the Animal Welfare Intergroup. I'm happy you mentioned the successful European Citizen Initiative and the cage age and the upcoming legislation to come in 2026. This is a very important one. And as I always say, it's also about the credibility of the EU institutions if we have successful ECIs. I think it's important that the Commission concretely reacts. But there was another ECI that was very successful. I'm speaking about Fur-Free Europe. That was in 2023. So my question is, we still have today more than 1,000 farms in the EU, but we have also on the other hand already the banning of fur farms in 16 EU member states. And this goes, of course, hand in hand with the banning also of imports of fur products. We still have 37 million animals everywhere that are raised and killed for fur. So what are you going to do on this topic also to be coherent to this ECI, what a lot of citizens are asking for? And then another question I have is regarding phasing out of animal testing. There also, the Commission promised a roadmap that we need to be very concrete now. There's a lot of sectors where we have already alternatives, and I think it's very important in toxicology, but also in general medical research, where we have even more efficient methods in order to phase out animal testing. So what are you going to do really to promote the phasing out of animal testing? And then last question is really on the slaughter regulation. I think you did not mention it, and on the animal welfare label, is there also foreseen, are they also foreseen at latest for 2026? Thank you.
Yes, as you can hear, Commissioner, there are a lot of questions, and we see how many you can answer. But we have one final speaker before I will give you the floor, and then we'll take another round of questions. Mr. Buddha, if you want to jump in.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for your presentation. As you know, I'm EPP rapporteur for the file regarding animal welfare during transport. This is a file that has stirred many passions in Parliament, because farmers on the one hand, transporters on the other, are telling us that in its current form, in the form that the Commission devised it, this legislation creates huge problems with tremendous costs that will eventually be felt by the consumers. And my question to you is the following. Is there today any possibility to make sure that European legislation is properly being implemented in the member states? Because I'm told time and again that unfortunately in member states, the current legislation, which is quite good, is not properly implemented. And I have another question for you, which has to do with the use of pesticides, fertilizers, artificial fertilizers, or chemical substances in third countries with which we are about to conclude trade agreements. Does the Commission have sufficient mechanisms available to make sure that those countries abide by the same production standards that we have in the EU? Because, Commissioner, otherwise we're basically reauthorizing the use of banned substances in the EU. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buddha. Commissioner, I will give the floor to you, and if you would like to spend 5-10 minutes, whatever you want to spend, then we could have another round of questions afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's try to go one by one. First, on the One Health approach. If you look at the proposals we just made on Tuesday about the Critical Medicines Act, you see how high it is on the agenda for this Commission to continue to fight the antimicrobial resistance. And there are two strands in this fight. One is to develop new antibiotics, because we will need new antibiotics. And the other one is, of course, reducing the use of old ones, to which people more and more become resistant. The progress is slow in the member states in terms of implementation, of phasing out in human use, but where I see already delivery happening are more in the animal sector, where they are on target in terms of reducing. We have a target for 2030, and I'm confident that we're going to reach that. But of course, it means that we have to work together with you to achieve it, and together with the farmers to achieve it. Now, on the cats and dogs and the positive list of exotic animals, yes, it is in my mission letter. But first, I want to succeed with the cats and dogs proposal. Because, first of all, we need to see whether we can actually go ahead in this area with the two co-legislators. So I'm urging both the Parliament and the Council to make progress on these proposals, which are the first in this area. Once that's done, then we can return to the issue of exotic animals. Then I had several questions on the End the Cage Age European Citizens Initiative. I think it is clear that the successful End the Cage Age initiative is going to be responded positively by the Commission. This has been confirmed several times. But it is also very clear that we need to thread very carefully, so that we have all the stakeholders not only around the table and not only listened to, but also that we come up with solutions that are workable solutions, also on the ground when it comes to actually ending the cage age. It is for that reason that this year is going to be consecrated to a dialogue with this time the farmers included, and a dialogue which should also be specific enough to come up with technical solutions. Because it's one thing to have an academic discussion about ending the cage age, but we need also technical solutions with which we can do it. And this is why the Commission will go sector by sector, because the realities of the sectors are very different. Some of you mentioned the poultry sector. Mr. Weitz mentioned the laying hen cage problematics. It's a different reality if I look at the poultry sector, for example, with the pork sector, both in terms of size, in terms of practicability, in terms of costs. So I think we will not be able to find a one-size-fits-all solution for all the sectors, but we will have to go one by one and try to address it. If the question implied that we are more advanced in the poultry sector, or the most advanced in Europe in the poultry sector, then I agree with you. Yes, and this is a very interesting example because it was in that sector that the consumers, the food chain, the parts of the major players of the food chain, so basically supermarkets, and also the farmers have managed to come up with a solution which was not only going in the direction of the public debate, meaning ending the cage age, but also created solutions that are economically viable. And this is why I think we need to look at that sector with, in order to find the lessons to be learned. My assessment of it, but I stand corrected, of course, is that it was in that sector where the additional costs were actually met by the additional market value created, so that it didn't actually affect the profitability. And this was the sector where, as also Mr. Weitz mentioned, where also the consumers were able to consider this to be of a higher value for which they are ready to pay more. And this is an interesting example. We're looking at it, but we're also looking at other sectors. Then on ending the other European Citizens Initiative on fur-free Europe. As you know, we have asked EFSA now for a scientific opinion. It is due in a couple of months, and once we have that, we will need to look at the economic and social consequences and the different options EFSA will be proposing, and from there on we will take a look what could be the next step in this area. Then on legal protection of all animals, I think I have answered that question. Imports of horse meat from Uruguay, Argentina. This is a very sensitive topic. This is something that we're following up very closely with the Argentinian and the Uruguay administration. And we are putting questions to them about their level of compliance with the conditions of imports to the European Union. So this is something that we take very, very seriously, and where we are acting upon the issue. Yes, then Mr. Weitz, farmers don't want to see their animals transported too far. I agree with you. This is my sense from talking to the farmers as well. But we also see that somehow the value chains have become stretched and longer. Maybe it's because of the lack of abattoirs. Maybe it has to do with new economic realities. But I agree with you that transporting animals for reasons that are not strictly necessary is always a stress on the animals. So, and this is, for me personally, this is more and more an issue when it comes to transporting animals for slaughter only. So, transporting animals for 10, 15 days and then to be slaughtered, it's not only not very humane, but it doesn't actually improve the quality of the meat at the end of the day. We see how this House will be shaping its position when it comes to the transport proposal. I hope that you're going to be successful, and you will be able to come up with a solution, maybe on this one as well. Then you had a question about the third countries. I think in the introductory remarks, I made a very clear statement about that, and I want to make it again. And this is an overarching issue. It's not only animal welfare, but it's also pesticides. From Mr. Buddha, I also had that question. If you look at the new strategy on agriculture, there is one overarching principle or two that we should enforce, I think, and that is very simple. If something is banned in the European Union, it is banned in the European Union, full stop. And it doesn't matter if it's export, import, reproduction, byproduction. If something is banned, it has to be banned. So when it will come to animal welfare standards, I think we will need to follow what we try to establish with the pesticides. And with this, I want to also respond to Mr. Buddha, because yes, we should not have residues of pesticides in our foods arriving from third countries that are banned in the European Union. No matter how this system came about, I think we need to reflect on that profoundly and we need to change it. And the same goes for animal welfare, because yes, indeed, we see that the cages from Europe have been sold to third countries, and now we're getting back the eggs from those very cages that have been sold to the member states where these cages are banned already. So I think that we need to be very clear on this, and I want to make it very clear very early in the mandate. Animal testing. I know that we're running short on time, but I want to answer everybody.
Yeah.
Animal testing. On animal testing, I think what you will see from this Commission is that we want to make sure that we have much better technology when it will come to the design, the development, the research of pharmaceuticals, of medical devices, so that we no longer have to rely on animal testing. For me, this is why the Biotech Act is going to be the most important proposal, because with this we can also change the reality on the ground about animal testing as well. If we use cleverly new technologies, artificial intelligence, also big data, then at the end of the day, in most cases, we will not need animal testing at all. So I think technology will phase out animal testing if we use it cleverly. One last to Mr. Buddha. I fully agree with you. Yes, current rules could be enforced way better. So the example that we have seen on the border of Bulgaria and Turkey is clearly against the existing rules. This should never have happened. This shipment never should have left the European Union. And I'm here and I'm available, and I want to extend my hand to you, that I am also personally ready to step in every case when there is something like this. It is very clear that most of the things that are horrendous, like this carousel of the wheels on sea, have been against the current rules already. So we need to now act immediately and enforce the rules with full force. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for the elaborate answers. We will take a round two. It will be shorter than round one, since we don't have so much time left. So there's a lot of hands, and I'm not sure we can get to everybody, but we'll try. So I will ask you to not spend more than 1 minute on your question, and we start with Maria Neutschel. Please, the floor is yours.
Ganz herzlich.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, I do have a question on the scope of the revision. If we take a look at the proposed regulation on kept animals, will it extend to all animals kept on farms, or will it just limit itself to a revision of the existing provision? So that's my specific question. Is it going to cover all kept animals? You've already said a couple of things on the ECIs, but I would like to know about the ECI on for freedom, i.e. for not having for farms. And what about an animal protection label? Thank you.
Thank you for the clear answer, Maria. Robert?
Thank you very much, Niels, and thank you very much, Commissioner, for being with us today. In your responsibilities, you are also responsible for food safety and combating food waste, two very important topics. We see increased population in Europe living in food poverty, 50 million more than population of Spain. On another hand, globally, we are not following the SDGs zero hunger goal, 700 million people living in extreme poverty, but we of course still wasting food. 20% of the meat produced in European Union is being wasted, so the slaughtering of animals is a case here as well. So my question would be, what action do you project as a Commission to address these issues, since the Sustainable Food Systems package is still not introduced? The broken food system is the European reality, and there is still not effective remedy to have a sustainable food system within our community, and put the end also to this cruelty where we slaughter millions of animals and then we throw the food away. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Sebastian?
Thank you, Niels. Thank you, Commissioner Várhelyi, for being here in the heart of the animal welfare in the Parliament. But now I will continue in German. Massentierhaltung.
Mass animal breeding. At the time, at the hearing, you represented quite a positive vision. Is this still the case? When it comes to animal breeding and sustainability, do you think these two terms can go together? And leaving aside political aspects and only focusing on economic aspects, do you not feel that mass animal breeding is bad for us? There's been quite a lot of talk about the European Citizens' Initiatives. It's not only 3 or 4 MEPs that find this important. That 1.5 million signing the Fur-Free Europe, 1.4 million end of the cage age. So yes, talks with the farmers, everything you've said, it sounds absolutely wonderful. But one question you said, this year. So when exactly in this year? And you talked about sectors which were going to have to be addressed gradually. So which sector are you going to address first of all? I get loads of messages on a daily basis from Turkey and Morocco, and all about street dogs, stray dogs being slaughtered, and then foie gras, stuffing geese in France. There's always, when you're they're trying to defend this, they always say, oh, it's national customs, etc. What about Commissioner Hansen? Is he going to do something about this?
Sebastian. Isabella.
Thank you very much, and welcome, Commissioner. I'm the rapporteur in PESH Committee on the animal transport regulation on aquatic animals specifically. And my question to you is, well, aquatic animals have been forgotten for a very long time. All the science is telling us that they feel pain and stress and panic, and they are really entitled to the same protection as terrestrial animals. Also, 9 out of 10 Europeans feel that they are entitled to the same protection. And the Commission's proposal is good in the basis, but it's also giving large exemptions to a number of categories, including CITES-listed species, ornamental fish, and fish going to specific restaurants, etc. So my question to you, do you support including all aquatic animals into the regulation? Because I think European citizens expect that. Second question is on One Health and on antibiotics use. And I come from Sweden. And already in 1986, Sweden became the first country in the world to ban use of antibiotics in growth promoters in food animal production. And we've reduced the use of antibiotics through better animal health protection, with more space for the animals and less stress for the animals. And do you support this approach, that to reduce the use of antibiotics, then actually you can do that by providing better comfort and space for the animals? Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. Annalisa?
We have still some time to be translated, isn't it? I think? Ok. Parlo in italiano.
I'm going to be speaking in Italian. Thank you very much, because we've heard a lot of questions being put, and I'd like to thank you for this meeting and repeat that we have great expectations for this new role because animal welfare is under attack. It polarizes people, and I think there's a cross-cutting issue here in terms of animal well-being, and a great deal of support from people in general who are even more aware, increasingly aware of how important it is also for our health. So we've got great expectations as to making progress here. I've got 2 points. One is the regulation on slaughter. I believe no one has mentioned that yet. And the other is, how are we going to help with the fact that there is monitoring in the member states as to whether legislation is being complied with? Is it really being complied with? Because very often civil society points out to us that legislation is not being respected in terms of animal welfare. So what about controls at the borders? Very often there are irregularities in transport and also in the animal husbandry itself in terms of compliance of legislation. So how can we actually help? How can we support that this compliance takes place? Thank you.
Thank you, Annalisa. Now we have 2 speakers left, and we have to finish at 11. So maybe if you have a super short question, Petrus, you have the floor. 30 seconds, perhaps.
Unfair, but I will try. Well, illegal exports of dogs and cats and other animals to the EU is a part of the organized crime. To what extent the Commission is intending to cooperate, for example, with Europol to enforce over our external borders needed control and supervision? And secondly, to what extent the Commission is ready to step in, for example, changing the perception of some member states, like in Spain for hunting dogs who are abandoned after certain age limit, or in France, for example, still hunting small birds for, I don't know, some cuisine reasons. I mean, I think time has come, to probably talk more individually and try to change their habits. Thank you.
Thank you, Petrus. Jessica, do you want 30 seconds?
Thank you very much. I'm Cristina Guarda from the Greens from Italy. This is my first time because I was in maternity leave, so I'm so
Actually, it was,
I'm sorry.
the speaker behind you. Sorry.
I was already confused. No worries. Thank you. About the cats and dogs, I can be very short. My daughter asked me a few weeks ago, Mom, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm making amendments for the cats and dogs regulation, which is about chipping cats and dogs in Europe. And she said, seriously, Mom, you don't have more serious stuff to talk about in Europe? That's all I have to say about the cats and dogs regulation. I do have a question for you, Commissioner. I'm very happy with your One Health approach. The antimicrobial resistance is definitely one of the biggest health issues that we face as humans. The World Health Organization predicts it's going to be the #1 cause of death by 2050. I am very concerned, though, about the Mercosur deal with regards to antibiotics. Because even though we talk a lot about pesticides and we talk about growth hormones, which we can actually check, the use of antibiotics cannot be checked. And as a veterinarian, I can tell you it's impossible to check, but it can contribute to the antimicrobial resistance in Europe. So I would really much have your answer to that question, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry we cannot take any more questions. We have 3 minutes, I think, Commissioner. So we also have to respect that you also have to other meetings, go to other meetings. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, on the animal welfare label, I think that this is emerging in many member states now as an issue of promotion of good practices. So we are, of course, engaging with these member states, and we are happy to engage also with the Parliament to see what is the added value of such a scheme. But having such a scheme should have an added value, not only in terms of labeling, but also in terms of added economic value. I think this would be the real win-win to have such labels, and this is our approach. When it comes to the different sectors of the cage age initiative, as I told you, we will be going sector by sector. So at this stage, I cannot tell you which sector would be covered when. It is clear that the request is very, very clear from the citizens, and we will respond. On sustainable food system, we have just concluded the waste directive last year. In that, a very important milestone was agreed on food waste. So now I'm really hopeful that the implementation will create a different landscape. We see that in some member states, this topic is growing big, not only when it comes to the politics of it, but when it comes to the implementation of it. We see that in some member states, a significant reduction in food waste was achieved. So we will need to look how they have been able to achieve that. Now, aquatic animal transport, I think that the transport proposal is very clear, and I hope that there will be an agreement in this House, and then we will take it from there. But it is true also for the aquatic animal sector that the better enforcement or an improved enforcement of the current rules could change the reality on the ground much faster. And this is how I'm looking at that sector. Then AMRs, mentioned twice. Yes, the AMR is a hot topic, and I agree with the implied statement that it is difficult to trace it back, especially when it comes to imports. But we have to do our utmost to be able to do that. What we do with third countries is that we will reinforce the control. The Commission will deploy much more effort and funding to send our experts and our teams to check the realities on the ground, also when it will come to the implementation of the Mercosur. So there will be an increased level of control. But I cannot shy away from the fact that controlling there and monitoring there is only one part of this equation. The other part of the equation is that our ports and entry points for these products are not controlling sufficiently the imports arriving to the European Union. So we need a much better and much more systematic enforcement of these conditions at the entry points of the European Union, in the seaports of the European Union where these products arrive. On the AMRs, another commitment I took was to refresh the list of antibiotics banned from use in animal treatment much more frequently. So we would like to refresh it every 6 months, so that we always have the latest available science already implemented on the ground. Enforcement monitoring in the member states, and maybe with this, I know I will have another one. Yes, this is another topic I raised with the ministers I met, agriculture ministers, that we need to sit together and look at ways how to have a clearer picture when it comes to the enforcement of animal welfare rules. And they are all in for it, and they are all willing to cooperate. So I think that we have an opening, a clear opening there. And now on the cats and dogs and the export of illegal export. This is not the first time I hear it, and I'm happy to engage in this, and we will address this issue. It is a clear criminal network, and it's part of organized crime, and it has to be taken like that. So we will sit down with my fellow commissioners, and we will discuss that. And finally, on the hunting dogs issue in Spain. Again, we have discussed it also with the ministers. It's appalling. It's appalling that it is still recurring practice to kill off a whole generation of dogs just because the hunting season is over. It's simply unbelievable. And this is something that we need to address quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Very elaborate answers, and we have been very happy to discuss with you. We hope that we can follow up at some point and keep the discussion going. If you have time for a quick photo, I know you have to leave, then we will, the MEPs who want to be on the photo, just come up here, and then we'll finish the meeting. Thank you very much.